Staff in Greatsword, also called Sentinel, might be one of the best DPSs in PvE. Bold statement, but let me prove that. So when it comes to DPS in PvE, one of the easiest way to check how much DPS a class has is by checking how good it performs in secret dungeons. The problem with the Sentinel is that not a lot of people are playing it, because it's just really an off-meta build. That's why in all servers that I have been, they are performing not so well. But when I started doing those secret dungeons, I have beaten pretty easy everything on my server. And I also got some decent results here, 42 seconds, that's already pretty good. But let's have a look on my current gear. So this is my second character, so I'm not investing into the character. So both of my weapons are almost not traded. But I have also almost no skill damage boost, I have almost no buff duration, and I don't have a Shadow Harvester set. I just have some random epic gear which gives me quite a bit of base stats, which is of course already pretty good, but it's nothing special. And in addition, I don't have better stellarites and I don't even play the boss perfectly. And for this, it's actually a crazy result. The time, the 42 seconds, will go crazy down. We have the correct gear and you play it better. Like, I really think this build can deal crazy good damage. Okay, so I have a full boss fight of a normal dungeon and also a secret dungeon on the end of the video. But now I hopefully piqued your interest and you're interested in what makes this build so strong. So let's have a look on the skills we should take, the masteries that are really important, and the gear and the stats you have to focus on to get the most out of this build. And trust me, all of those things are really important and you can't skip those. And in the end, I will also give you some tips on how you have to play it. Okay, so without further ado, let's get started. Okay, so let's start with the skills. First of all, what this class makes just really good are the passives. Okay, so through Vital Force and Forbidden Sanctuary, we are getting around 160 skill damage boost for free. And then we are additionally just getting plenty of heavy attack chance. We are getting 100 heavy attack chance if we are not moving for 3 seconds. Through Flame Condensation, we are getting 10 heavy attack chance for each burning stack on our enemy. And we are getting additionally 240 heavy attack chance when we are attacking a stunned or shocked target. And all of those passives we can easily trigger most of the time on bosses. So that's already 440 heavy attack chance. And the other passives will give us mostly some mana regeneration, max mana, and also some other small damage boosts. Overall, just really good passives. Okay, so from the Greatsword, we always want to take the Q block and Stunning Blow. Okay, so Stunning Blow stuns the enemy, and if we can't stun an enemy, then we are shocking the enemy. So most bosses you can't stun, therefore you are shocking them. And if you perfectly Q block with the Greatsword, then we are also stunning or shocking our target. And why is that so good? Because we are getting so much heavy attack chance through our passive. So always when we are attacking a shocked target, we are getting this huge amount of heavy attack chance. But additionally, we are also taking Death Blow and Guillotine Blade, which will also deal additional damage when the enemy is stunned or shocked. So here you already understand the synergy between all those passives. Okay, other than that, we always take your Violent Brawl. The nice thing about this skill is that it reduces its cooldown when you heavy attack with the skill. And since the whole build relies on heavy attacking a lot, this is of course a must have. And then the last thing we always want to have is Willbreaker. Willbreaker just reduces the armor of our enemy. Doesn't matter if you are solo or in dungeon, this skill is just insanely strong and you always want to have it. Okay, now from the stuff we of course will always take here our serial firebombs. It's decent damage, but it's also applying the burning stacks. And one of our passive was that as more burning stacks we have on our enemy, the more heavy attack chance we get. And then we always will take Fireball Barrage, which is a single target damage spell which can also deal crazy amount of damage, especially when we have a lot of fire stacks on our enemy. So not only will we get additional heavy attack chance, but we will also deal additional damage with Fireball Barrage. Okay, then we will always be taking Judgment Lightning. Judgment Lightning is also a really heavy hitting spell, and it's amplified by the heavy attack chance and the burning stacks on our enemy. I think you're starting to see how everything comes together. Okay, but then the next thing we always want to have is Chain Lightning. It just has a really short cooldown and also some really good damage. And then we will take Ice Spear, which standard is an AoE spell which slows, which is not so good in PvE. But this spell has some nice upgrades which makes it a really nice single target damage spell. Okay, then of course we will also always take here High Focus. This spell not only reduces our cooldown, but with the right upgrade will also additionally increase our base damage. And if you watched any of my PvE videos, then you know it already, base damage is crazy strong in PvE. For the last slot we have now different options. If you don't have a perfect gear with a lot of mana regeneration, then you have to take here Inner Peace, at least for dungeons. Because this build will drain a lot of mana. If you have enough mana regeneration or you're doing secret dungeons, then I would go here for Inferno Wave. It's just an additional AoE attack which also deals quite a bit of damage. There's not really anything else we could use here. If you're a really team player, then you can of course also go here for Blood Devotion and buffing the base damage of your whole team, which is of course also really good. You could also go for Da Vinci Courage, but this really depends on like how many Greatsword players you have in your party. Okay, but now let's have a look on the skill specialization we have to take here. I will explain here the one for the dungeons, but I will of course also link the skill specialization for the secret dungeons in the video description. Okay, so for dungeons, usually we are focusing on doing the best single target damage as we can. But having some AoE damage is also always good in dungeons, because clearing all the trash mobs is also really important. That's why we will take here a bunch of skill specialization which will heavily increase our AoE damage. But important here is that we don't lose any single target damage because of that. Okay, that's why we will be upgrading Violent Brawl, Will Breaker, Guillotine Blade, Serial Firebombs, Chain Lightning and Judgment Lightning, so that all of these spells deal additional AoE damage. So if we spam these kind of spells in groups of monsters, we will deal crazy amount of AoE damage. It's just really good and we don't lose any single target damage because of that. Okay, then there's an option to upgrade a few of our spells to chargeable skills. So Death Blade, Guillotine Blade and also Serial Firebombs. This is not good in PvE. Yes, we get a lot of burst, but we really don't care about burst. We only want DPS, so damage per second. I'm highlighting this so much because I see everyone using those chargeable skills in PvE. You're just losing DPS when you use those kind of upgrades. There are a few builds where it makes sense because you don't have so many damage spells, but usually you always have enough damage spells, that's why it's usually never good to take those kind of upgrades. Okay, but what we will be doing for Death Blow and Guillotine Blade is that we are reducing its cooldown, which is of course just always really strong. Additionally, we will also reduce its cooldown from Stunning Blow, which just lets us shock the boss more often, which of course also will heavily increase our DPS. Now the last upgrade we will be taking from the Greatsword here is the damage increase from Violent Brawl. So we are getting a damage buff after we are using the spell. It's just for 2 seconds, but this will of course get longer if we have more buff duration. And the cooldown of the spell is really short because we have so much heavy hit. That's why this upgrade is just really good. Okay, now let's come to the upgrades from the stuff. Here we are upgrading our Serial Firebombs, that we have no cast animation anymore and also that we can use it while moving. Of course, just both really strong. And then for Chain Lightning we also take the last upgrade, which makes the spell leave a burning area which will deal constantly damage on the area, which helps us to deal more single target damage but also more AoE damage. An upgrade we should always take. Fireball Barrage, we make the cooldown shorter and make the spell shoot additional fireballs per burning stack on the enemy. Against bosses we will always have 10 stacks on the enemy, so we will always shoot 10 additional fireballs, which deal just crazy amount of damage. And then for Ice Spear we change the spell to a single target damage spell, which deals now really good single target damage. And then here with this upgrade we can also additionally boost its damage even more. And then the last upgrade we take here is the upgrade from High Focus, that we are increasing also additionally our max damage for the duration. As already mentioned, base damage is just giga broken. Okay, that's the build I'm currently using in all of my dungeon runs. And it just feels really strong. Like the damage we can do with that is just really good. But the skills are just one thing. There are just a lot of other things that are really important for this build. Now let's have a look onto the Masteries. So for the Greatsword we always want to go here for the additional 100 heavy attack chance. So we will always go into the face-off tree. All the other points after level 10 are really not important. For PvE there's really nothing good anymore. For the fire staff, you always want to take here the middle destroy tree, just because it gives you a lot of additional base damage and also additional cooldown reduction, which is really good on this build because we have so many spells which we all want to spam all the time. I also tested here the additional magic damage from brutal destruction, but I lost around 10% damage in the secret dungeons. It's crazy how heavy the masteries are affecting here our damage. Alright, but that's all you need to know for the masteries. Now let's come to the gear, and this is of course really important. So as always, I created here two different builds. So the first one includes world boss drops, so you will most likely need the guild for that. And the second is a budget build where you can farm everything yourself. So for a Sentinel build, a few things are really important. So first of all, in both builds you can see that we heavily focus on dexterity. This has two reasons. First of all, it gives us a lot of crit chance, which is as in DPS in PvE always really powerful. But secondly, and way more important, dexterity gives attack speed. You saw at the beginning how fast I got all my abilities off, and that's just because of attack speed. It doesn't matter if it's an instant cast spell or a spell with a cast time, every spell comes faster out. And you will need the attack speeds to hold all your spells on cooldown. Only this way you can actually maximize your DPS. So you always want to have 60 dexterity. The only other gear piece we can have currently attack speed on are the gloves. Here you want gloves that have by default attack speed on it, and you additionally can also trade attack speed. And this is really important and you can't skip that if you want to deal the same amount of damage as me. At the beginning you can also use the Duskblood gloves. These are just a really good and cheap alternative at the beginning. These are also the same I was using here in my clip. Okay, then for the rest of the gear, as always in my PvE guides, we are focusing heavily on base stats, because base stats directly influences our base damage, and base damage is the basis for all of our skills. So if you want to deal a lot of damage, then you need a lot of base stats. Okay, but besides that, there are two good sets that are really beneficial for us, and that's the Shadow Harvester and the Phantom Wolf set. For both of the set we only need two pieces, then we are getting more crit damage, which is of course always good, and we are getting bonus damage, which is not 100% needed, but it's still really good in our build because we are doing so many attacks. But not only the set bonus is good, but also all other base stats are fitting just really well in our build. For the accessories there's really nothing special, there are currently not so many options, and for PvE we will mostly use here the same. Again, here's just the focus to get to our 60 dexterity. Okay, for the weapons you will get a huge damage boost with the Greatsword Staff. Getting 30 base damage is just really good, but also here the Umbromancer from the budget variant is really good stuff. For the Greatsword you will always go for the Duke Magnus Fury Warblade, it's just too good for PvE and you will always take this one. Okay, that's it, all you need to know about the gear and the stats. It will take for sure quite a bit of time till I find all those items on my second char, but I really want to test it because I really think that this build can be incredibly powerful. Okay, now we understood what we all need. Now let me give you some tips on how you want to play it usually. So usually you always start by buffing yourself and activating high focus. Now of course usually it would make sense to use now Willbreaker to debuff the enemy, and you would also always do that in secret dungeons. But I wouldn't do that in normal dungeons, because usually the tank will always use the spell in the beginning. So I usually wait here a couple of seconds till I use it. Okay, now I would shoot my firebolts to get the burning stacks on the target. Then use Stunning Blow to get the shock effect on the boss, and then just spam all my damage spells. Of course you can even more optimize your rotations, but for the most part it's not really important. The burning stakes we will anyways have 100% of the time on the boss, and the shock duration on the boss will be around 7 seconds, which will be more than enough time to do our complete damage rotation. That's why it's really not too critical what we are using here first. Okay, but after your first damage rotation, I would start then using Willbreaker. Of course, if your tank is not using that at all, then you will of course use that directly at the beginning. And then you just spam your spells, it's really not more. Okay, but there are a few other details which are really important. Okay, first of all, never reactivate your block from the Greatsword. So if you block, you can usually do a follow-up attack that hits all players around you. So this deals really not a lot of damage, but it really takes forever to do this animation. The block is still really good because it's stunning or shocking our target. If you see you have anyways downtime on your spells right now, but this really won't happen too often if you go with my build. But we only get the effect if we perfectly block. So it's really important that we perfectly block if we want to deal a lot of damage. Since we are stunning or shocking our target, it's important that we are not wasting our stunning blow then. So if we are perfectly blocking an attack, then we're waiting for a few seconds and then we will be using stunning blow. And then the last step, it's important that you don't move too much. Because if you don't move for 3 seconds, then you will get the additional 100 heavy attack. Now these are the small details which give you just a lot of additional DPS. But that's mostly it. I love this build. It's just so fast and you press a lot of buttons, but it also feels just so satisfying and so good. You have to play this build with a lot of attack speed, but then it's just really good. I will for sure continue playing this build and optimizing this build, but there's also so much more stuff I want to try. But I will for sure keep updating this build. But let me know what are the builds you are interested in I should have a look at. A meta, an off-meta build, I don't care. Give me a challenge, I will make it viable for you. Now have fun watching the builds in action. And if you liked the video and want to support me, don't forget to subscribe, like and do all this nice stuff. Thanks a lot and see ya in the next one.